Everybody hear me okay? Today we go to night court as we continue our message through the book of Judges. We are at night court this week. And when I probably said that, and you see that graphic there, a lot of you probably remember the show that ran on the TV, starting all the way back in 1984, January the 4th to be exact, 1984. And it ran until 1992, and how it followed this quirky night shift of the Manhattan Criminal Court presiding over a young, eccentric judge named Harry T. Stone. Remember him? It ran for 9 seasons, very popular. It was so 1980s too. Like if you look at it, you could tell right away that this is the 80s, couldn't you? The neon style logo and the funky jazz theme and the humor, it was all part of the 80s lineup for NBC that was such a legendary block of shows. And the people loved this show so much they said, we want it back. So it came back in 2023 and it ran for 2 more years. But this time it continued with Harry Stone's daughter as the new judge. Her name was Judge Abby Stone. And she continued the same thing with the Manhattan Night Court and followed right in her father's shoes. But today, I want us to see another night court judge. This time, not a judge from the 80s and Harry Stone, not even in the more recent one with Abby Stone, because before both of these judges ever appeared on the TV, we had our night court judge, and his name was Gideon. So today we're going to look at the story of Gideon, which is in Judges chapter 6, if you're there with me. I'm going to ask you a question that you already know the answer to, but we're going to check just to be sure to see if maybe the answer is different this time. But chapter 6, verses 1, why do we need a new judge? As you remember, last week we had Judge Deborah, and now this week it says we need a new judge. Why do we need the new judge? This is your part. Why do we need the new judge? There it is. Yep. The judge, 6:1 tells us the answer. Again, the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. So he delivered them into the hand of the Midianites for 7 years. Judges 6 verses 1. So we see this again, the cycle that we've been reading about, that Israel's fallen into this familiar pattern. They have rebellion, they turn to Baal worship, they are ruined, so God takes them over the hands of the oppressors. They cry back out, God raises up the judge. We keep seeing this cycle repeating itself and repeating itself and repeating itself. However, this week it takes on just a little bit different. So I want you to see this. You see, the people aren't just sinning, okay? But they've become comfortable with this idol worship. You see, Baal just isn't out there as something that they're worshiping, but it's in Gideon's own backyard. It's actually on his father's property. They have become comfortable with Baal worship. And Midian, that we're going to read here in just a second, they're not like the others in Egypt and in Canaan. They don't just conquer cities. They starve them out. They sweep in like locusts. If you read the very first couple of verses, it says they swept in like locusts. They steal their crops. They take their livestock. They leave Israel nothing to leave on. Israel is so oppressed that they're actually living inside of caves, living hand to hand, constantly afraid, verse 2 says, because the power of the Midianites was so oppressive. The Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in the mountain clefts, the caves, the strongholds. That's where Israel is. That's how the Midianites, how they conquer. They don't just come in. They come in and starve you out, is what's happening here. And it says that they're hiding in caves. That's where they're hiding. It says that Gideon has seen he's working a wine press. And he's not even crushing grapes. He's crushing grains, it says. So he's not even working. He's starving. They're trying to figure out any way they can to have basic necessities. Because listen to what verse 6 says. The Midianites were so impoverished that the Israelites, that they cried out for the Lord to help. That word simply means this. It means that they are so out there, they are so poor, they're in such poverty that they lack the basic resources for even basic living. They have stripped everything from them. They took everything from them. He's actually using a wine press to try to get something out of the wheat. They're just trying to survive. This ruthless, under the 7 years that they've been under this oppressed leadership, this is where we are. And so what happens in verse 6, it says that they got so bad, that things got so bad, they couldn't even have basic things, that it says finally they cried out to the Lord for help. What else could they do? They finally cry out. And God sends them Gideon. And Gideon tells them, if you look at the other parts of the verse, we're not going to read it here, but I'll paraphrase it. It says, you didn't listen. You forgot who brought you out of Egypt. You worship these other gods, he tells the people. He's really telling them, you know what? You want relief because you're oppressed. You want relief, but you really don't want repentance. You just want relief from the symptoms. But Israel wants God to fix the symptoms, but God really wants to heal their disease. And it sets the call for Gideon. God is not just rescuing Israel from the Midians. He's really rescuing Israel from Israel. Because see, getting Israel out of Egypt, that was the easy part. But getting Egypt out of the Israelites is becoming hard. Why? Because they want to worship the same way they did. They want to worship the same gods that their oppressors did. They forget about Yahweh. They forget about God. Getting them out of Egypt was easy. God could do that. But now they can't get Egypt out of their self. And God wants that more than anything. He says, I don't want that to be part of who you are. You're to worship Yahweh. You're to worship the one true God. And guess what? Gideon's family, they're part of the problem. They're part of the problem. Because listen, he is part of a family that maintains a Baal altar. He keeps an Asherah pole. We're going to talk about this in a second. But he keeps an Asherah pole. He participates in their local idolized economy. That's the problem. That's the very foundation that Gideon is in right now. Part of the problem is they can't get Egypt out of the Israelites, and guess what? It's right in Gideon's backyard. It's in his father's house. They have a Baal altar. They have a pole, an Asherah pole, standing right there. These things that they worship instead of worshiping Yahweh. They're in his own backyard. And this is why, before God tells them that they can fight the Midianites, guess what they need to do first? They need to clean their own house. You follow that? They've become accustomed to these things, haven't they? They've become accustomed to worshiping this useless stuff. And God says, before you can go fight these people over here, you got to clean up inside first. You got to get rid of the junk that's in your own backyard first. Before you can ever fight these people over here. These people over here, they've oppressed you to the point where you're living inside of a cave. These people have oppressed you to the point where they come in and they steal your livestock. These people have oppressed you to the point where you're taking a wine press, you're trying to put barley and you're trying to put grains into there, hoping something comes out that you can eat because you're starving. Before you can fight them, you got to clean up your own backyard. That's the problem. That's why you're here, isn't it? That's why you're here. You've got to get rid of that stuff first. Gideon grew up in that. Remember that. His father hosted it. The town had it. The people made it normal. But God tells Gideon, before you can fight them, you've got to tear down your father's altar. Because here's the thing I believe. Before Gideon can lead Israel publicly, he must obey God privately. He has to get rid of the junk. And that's what he calls him to do. That's what he calls him to do. And I want you to see in verse number 12 what happens. This is what happens. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon. And he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Then Gideon says, "Pardon me, my Lord. But if the Lord was with us, then why has this happened to us? Where are all the wonders that our ancestor told me about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us, and he's giving us over to the hand of the Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength that you have, and save Israel out of Midian's hands. Am I not sending you?" Interesting. What did he tell Moses a generation or two before that? Who am I? Who am I? Gideon says, what about the God of our ancestors? The God that says you're not going to abandon us. Why are we here? Why are we here? What did God tell Moses? I'm going to be with you. What does God tell Gideon? Go with what you have. I'm going to save you. Is it not me who sends you? Wow. Do you see it? Do you see it now? We got to clean up our own self first, he says. We got to clean up the junk inside. If we're going to fight these people, we got to stop the bleeding. You can't have the surgery till you stop the bleeding. And that's what he tells them. Is it not me who sends you? And then Gideon, he's just confused. He says, "Pardon me, Lord, but how can I save Israel? My clan is weak, and I'm the least of my family." He's the least. That means he's the youngest, probably. What did Moses say? "I have a bad speech impediment." What did God tell him? Is it not me who gave you your tongue? Is it not me who gave you speech? Here we see Gideon offer up an excuse that we too oftentimes will offer. Who am I? I'm the weak one. I'm the smallest of my clan. The Lord answers, "I will be with you. And you will strike down the Midianites, leaving none of them alive." Leaving none alive. So Gideon says, "Okay, show me a sign. Show me a sign." What's the sign? Show me the sign that you're going to be with me. What did Moses tell God? Or what did God tell Moses? There's going to be a sign afterwards that I was with you. Because the people are going to worship on the mountain, right? Show me the sign, God. That's what Gideon's asking the Lord here. He sees the Lord in an angel and he says, "Pardon me, Lord, but how can I know you're real? How do I know you're going to take me out of this place? How do I know this? Because I'm afraid. I'm scared." Sometimes Christians need to step up and say, "I'm afraid. I'm scared." And God offers him a sign. He says, "I want you to go back, and I want you to take meat, and I want you to take unleavened bread, and I want you to put them on a rock." So what does Gideon do? He goes back, and he puts meat, and he puts unleavened bread on a rock. And then listen. The angel of the Lord touched that meat and the unleavened bread with the tip of the staff in his hand, and fire flamed from that rock, consuming the meat and the bread. And then the angel of the Lord disappeared. So he reaches out to that very thing that he said, "Show me that sign." And he said, "You want a sign? You want to see power? There's power." Poof! Now go. I need a sign. I just gave you one, didn't he? Now go clean up your own house, he says. Before you face them, get rid of the junk. Get rid of the junk. So what's he tell them? What's he tell them? Help me, dear Lord, Gideon says. I have seen the angel of the Lord. I have seen him face to face. But the Lord said to him, peace be with you. Do not fear. You shall not die. Then Gideon built an altar there, and the Lord called it, the Lord is peace. He says, the angel of the Lord appeared to me, and I saw him face to face. Peace be with you. Don't fear. You're not going to die. That's what the angel tells Gideon. God gives Gideon a commandment. He says, Gideon, go down to your father's house and tear down the altar of Baal and cut down the Asherah pole that's beside it. Here's maybe what an Asherah pole may have looked like up on the screen. It was simply a cult object. It was carved out of wood, and they would worship this thing in the Canaanites. It was a fertility goddess. That's what they were worshiping. They worshiped Baal. They worshiped fertility gods. They forgot about Yahweh. The same Yahweh who took them out of Egypt, they done forgot. And now what does God tell Gideon to do? I want you to go to your father's house. I want you to tear down that altar, and I want you to tear down that pole. That's what he tells them to do. He said, I want you to destroy it because you're going to build a proper altar. He instructed him to go down, and he told him that I want you to tear down that altar. I want you to tear down that pole, and better yet, when you're done tearing down that pole, I want you to use that pole to make a sacrifice to me. So God uses something that was against him for something that honored him. Tear down the junk, and we're going to build up something correct. We're going to build a proper altar, God tells Gideon. God uses the very thing that they used to worship in order to worship the one true God. Gideon obeys, but he does so at night. He does so at night. He's afraid. His father's household, the men of the town, they were devoted to Baal. So Gideon goes at night, and Gideon becomes the judge of the night court, doesn't he? It says he goes at nighttime. He's not being a coward by going at night. He's just simply being honest. What's he afraid of? He's afraid of his family. He's afraid of his father. He's afraid of the town. He's afraid of the reputation. He's afraid of the backlash. He's afraid of the costs. But guess what? He does it anyway. Because what did God tell him? I'm going to be with you. Surely you're not going to die. It's going to be hard, Gideon. You're going to have to overcome fear, Gideon. You want a sign, Gideon? Here's your sign, Gideon. Now go and tear down this stuff. So Gideon obeys. Obedience and fear is still obedience. True deliverance begins when we remove the idols. Before Gideon can save Israel, he must confront the spiritual corruption in his own backyard. God reclaims his place, tearing down Baal's altar and building God's altar there for proper worship in Israel, for the Israelites. Now what happens next? I want you to follow along with me if you have your Bibles open. We're at verse 28. So he goes, and in the morning time, the people got up. There was a Baal altar demolished, and the Asherah pole had been cut down, and the second bull sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, Who did this? Who did this? Who did it? When they carefully investigated, they were told that Gideon, the son of Joash, did it. The people of the town demanded to Joash, bring out your son. He must die, because he took down Baal's altar and he cut down the Asherah pole that was beside it. But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal is really a god, then he can defend himself when someone else tears down the altar. Oh, wow. We got courage here, don't we, from Gideon's dad. Remember, this is in his backyard. The people come and they say, who did it? And they said, Gideon's the one who did it. Bring him here because he has to die. Take our altars, take our worship, put you to death for a thing. He says, your gods can't fight for themselves? Where are they? Where are they? The townspeople are furious by morning time. Because listen, God just didn't say tear it down. He said tear it down and build a right one. Build a proper one. He told him to offer a bull. He said to use the Asherah wood to do it with it. The wood that once fueled idolatry now fuels worship. The place where Baal was honored is a place now where Yahweh is exalted. The townspeople wake up, they want Gideon dead. Gideon's father, the man who owned the altar, suddenly becomes bold. If Baal is a god, let him contend for himself. That's a turning point, isn't it? That's a turning point. Gideon's obedience created space for someone else's courage. His own dad. And we see in verse 32, that Gideon gets a new name. Because Gideon tore down Baal's altar, he was given the name Jerubbaal, meaning let Baal contend with him. Let Baal contend with him now. Those false gods. But here's the thing. Here's what I want us to see today. Right when Gideon tore down that idol at home, guess what happens in the next chapters? The Midianites, they gather together. The Amorites, they gather. The eastern people crossing the Jordan River in the valley like a storm cloud rolling in. Because the enemy's moving in now. The threat just got real now. They're preparing themselves for a massive invasion, aren't they? Because they did this bold thing. They tore down their own gods, and this guy Gideon, we're going to get him now. So they gather themselves, don't they? Guess what? Here's the thing. Here's what I've learned in my ministry, in my life. When you turn away from your idols, when you turn away from the things that you one time worshiped, they come after you too. You say, Lord, I don't want the bottle no more. Well, guess what happens? The bottle comes looking for you. When you say, God, I don't want the drugs no more, guess what? The drugs come looking for you. When you say, God, I want to be a man to my wife and only my wife, guess what? The lust starts to come at you, don't it? It starts to build up. It starts to attack you. That's what they're starting to do. They see him in the distance, right? They see him out there. They're all gathering. The whole army. These same people who oppressed them for 7 years, they're gathering. And they're getting their surrounding people too. We'll show this guy. We'll show the Israelites now. They think they're oppressed now. They tore down what was ours. Now we're coming. Now we're coming for them. The threat's getting real. But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question that the Israelites had to ask themselves. It's a question that we have to ask ourselves. Who fights your battle? Who fights my battle? Who fought for Israel? Who fights within our household? Is it Baal Is it Asherah pole? Or is it the God of Israel? Who fights your battle? Because verse 34 tells us the answer. It says, then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. You hear that? It says the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. You know what Gideon does? You know what he does? I'll show you. I'll show you what Gideon does. I'll show you. Gideon, he says, the Spirit of the Lord's come upon me. You know what he does? He blows a trumpet. He blows a trumpet. He says, troops, get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Aren't you excited? There's the enemy. He says, we're going to get him. He takes a trumpet and he makes a battle cry. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Who fights your battles, Parkhead? It says the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. They're mustering the troops. Israel hasn't heard that sound in a long time, have they? They're beaten up. They're having everything taken from them. Christians are getting beat up. Christians are having everything taken from them. We're living in a cave. The Israelites lived in a cave, and then we see Gideon come out and he blows a trumpet. He blows a trumpet. The same Gideon who hid in a wine press. The same one who tore down the altar at night. The one who trembled his way into obedience now blows a trumpet. Israel hasn't heard it in years. They're saying, get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Israel was once scattered. They were oppressed. They were afraid. Now they're starting to unite under the call of a trumpet. The battle begins with God's initiative. The Spirit moved first with Gideon, and Israel responded. So after the fall of the idols, and after the Spirit falls, Gideon feels the weight around him. He sees the enemy. He's already sounded the trumpet. It means it's time to fight. It's time to battle. And he looks up maybe to heaven. And he says, God, Lord, I just need to know that you're really with me. Because we still get scared too. He tells God, he says, Lord, show me another sign that you're going to be with me. As we face this battle, I need to know that you're with me. Show me a sign. So Gideon lays out a fleece. If you'll save Israel by my hand, let the fleece be wet with dew and the dry ground around it, he tells me. So he wakes up in the morning, the fleece is soaked and the ground is dry. Gideon wanted a sign, and God gave him a sign. And then Gideon says, I'm still unsure. Show me a sign again, but this time let it be the opposite. Let the fleece be dry and let the ground be wet. And God does it. Just as he said. Just as he said, confirming that his strength and his power is going to be with Gideon. As Judges 6 ends, Gideon is not yet a finished hero. He's not yet fearless. He's not yet confident. He's not yet ready to lead the people the way that maybe we think he should, but he is obedient. He tore down the altars at home. He built the altars God asked for. He stepped in when God spoke to him. He arose with fear. He arose with fear, church. And he brought that fear to God. He didn't take it to an idol. He didn't take it to a hiding place. He took it to God himself. And he said, show me a sign. And God met him, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with reassurance that the dew on the ground was wet. And Judges 6 ends in the simple truth. God does not wait for perfect people. He uses ordinary, obedient people. He strengthens fearful people. The God who called Gideon will also carry him into what happens next, which is next week. The same is true for me and you. I invite us to tear down the things that compete with God. I invite us to build up what honors him. I invite us to bring to him what is our fears, and trust in the God who met Gideon at night court is going to meet you too. Next week, I invite you back to finish the story. Next week. Pentecost Sunday. Will be the sound of music. I invite you next Sunday, the Pentecost Sunday. We're going to hear the sound of music.